Revolutionary greetings. Haki Kweli Shakur coming at you again on this beautiful day. Moving on to this next topic that I want to get into. This is one of my, favorite areas to talk about because this is what it's all about. For the struggle of the people here in North America, New Africans, blacks, or whatever you call yourselves. And also globally, for the African, black man, melanated man. This is what our struggle is about, man. I made a video before, but it was kind of brief and short. So I decided to come back and make a part 2 to get more a little in depth on the subject. And my next couple of videos, I'm going to start going into a lot of range of topics. I'm going to start getting into a lot of stuff that I, be digging. And that, stuff I set to the side that I wanted to talk about that I haven't really got to talk about because I wanted to get all the things that I really wanted to talk about out the way. So, I'm going to start, moving into some other areas all across the board. Same type of topics. But, I'm going to start, going into some other stuff that I know our African people be wanting to know about. And, some of the stuff that our African people I know I be seeing daily on social sites that they are into, one thing I'm gonna really stop talking about is about religion. I'm gonna really fall back on that. Because I told myself a couple of years ago I'm a little too far ahead to still be talking about that religion thing. I feel like that's a distraction, and it's a standstill. I really don't want to talk about it, even though I know a lot of people aren't educated on religion and still falling for religion. But I'm not gonna really continue to walk on that path because I want to touch on the things that we should be focusing on, which is our politics, our economic politics, our social politics, and our cultural politics. That's what I really want to focus on, the areas that we should be really talking about. And this video is called The Struggle is for Land, Organize the South, Part 2. I made one video, I think 2 years ago, a year or two ago, when I first started making YouTube videos. And it was called The Struggle for Land. And, I really was just talking about, the provisional government of Republic of New Africa, the nation, the citizen I'm a part of. And, I just, dropped a little bit of, just a tad bit on what we stand for and what we were seeking. But this video is going to be more in depth because I'm just going to a couple of things I want to talk about for why the struggle is for land and why we are landless people here today. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I really want to discuss. Because a lot of people don't even realize that, our people, man, that built up, our ancestors that built up this land, man, was putting it down when they first came out of slavery. And even during slavery, like, we always had land. We obtained land. You see what I'm saying? And over the years, a lot of that was taken from us, by force, by trickery, by fuckery, all that, So it's like the basis of our struggle and independence and economic revolution and economic development and growing as a people, and for our generations, to start to get on the positive side of things economically and to lift our people up out of this stages that we are in, is land. Land is everything. That's what you need. And I'm talking about land specifically, even as our nation, because we know our nation, we seeking land for our nation. You see what I'm saying? For the black nation, a nation within the nation, here in the United States of America, preferably the South and the Black Belt. But also, as individuals, in your personal revolution and your personal development and your personal upliftment of your family, and to pass down, some kind of wealth and some kind of stability to your generations to come behind you, which is your kids and their kids and their kids, is land. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we must start getting more back into what our ancestors was on, which is land. We know what we got to do as a nation to get land, but specifically as our own individuals and taking care of our families, we must seek to gain and get land. Period. There is no other struggle. It's about land. This is how you survive. You see what I'm saying? You live off the land. You. I don't want to use that word, but you know, you help your financial situation off land. You see what I'm saying? And you know, you gotta have something to leave behind for your kids. Period. Why? Because a lot of our generations wasn't able to do that. And by them not being able to do that, this is why most of our people in the United States of America, New Africans today, are struggling. Because if you look at every other race across the board, what all other racial groups do? They build up their wealth, they build up their resources, they tool their resources, and they pass it down to their generations. They leave something for their next generations. Period. That's what they struggle for, man. And this is why I don't like to debate a lot of people and get in arguments with people, because I don't think people realize the Holocaust and you know what our ancestors went through, because we had everything taken away from us: culture, language, wealth, land, and people wonder why we are out here advocating and demanding what's ours, man. A lot of our New African people don't even realize they own land. Yes, you are owed land. Land they stole from your ancestors. They owe you land. And they owe our people land. Overall. As a nation. They took it from us. Our ancestors built up this country, built up this land, built up the South. The South was the economical power of the world. This is how this country gained its wealth, off the lands of the South and lands of the Midwest. But preferably, it really came from the South, because that's where all the resources were, you know, found. Tobacco, sugarcane, rice, anything you can name, man. They profited off our, you know, ancestors' skills in agriculture, because Africa is the agricultural center of the world. This is how Africa sprung. As nations and tribes, clans all across Africa, off the land. This is what they're fighting for. This is what all human beings are fighting for. Land. And also, the South, being this video specifically about us here in North America in the South. The South is the agricultural center of North America. Period. Little Africa. New Africa. You feel me? So it's like, this is what it's about, man. And you know, our people been obtaining, you know, land forever. It's been done. So it can be done again. Like the first New African state in Florida. Francisco Menendez. Fort Moshe. You know, Africans who had nothing. Ran away from slavery. Ran to the deeper South, to Florida, where they was, you know, able to obtain freedom from another colony. And set up the first New African state in 1738. 3,000 people community built up off the land. I can go on for days. All these black towns across the South that prospered off of land that they obtained. Whether from Tunis G. Campbell, Pap Benjamin, Edwin McCabe, the list goes on. Marcus Garvey, even the Nation of Islam. All these people's main focus was land. The what they call them? I can't really think of the name right now. The exodusters of I just said Benjamin Pap. Look what they put down. You see what I'm saying? The Great Migration to West and all the towns that were set up. I'm gonna get into them towns in a second. And I'm gonna talk about why we don't have no land and why the things that these European terrorists did to keep us from growing economically and socially by taking our land and taking land from our ancestors. I got a whole, you know, my blog site is newafrican77.wordpress.com. And when you go on that website, you can see all the stuff that I compiled, the information that I compiled talking about this video about land. Check it out, read it. Also, go to my Instagram at Haki Kweli. At Haki _Kweli _Shakur. Go to my other Instagram, August_3rd_collective, and you will see what I've posted and accumulated on black towns, land, all up and down my Instagrams. But I'm going to get into specifically things that they did to keep us from obtaining land and all these things and thus forth, man. Like laws, codes, field orders. Everything to keep our people from, having something to pass down, man. See, this is the biggest thing about this, man. We are struggling here today in 2015 because our ancestors had nothing to leave us. Period. They had nothing to leave us. And it was done like that on purpose. That's economic slavery, economic oppression, all that. We had nothing to leave. They had nothing to leave us. So every time we gained something, it was taken from us. Or either it was destroyed. You see what I'm saying? And, it's sad, man. And then the thing about it here and today, which I can't really blame our people too much because I know what happened to our people, so I don't never like to point the finger at our own people like that. But, we are accountable for what we do today. Because in the information age, we're supposed to know better. But it's coming. It's a marathon. You see what I'm saying? It's not a sprint because we got to keep educating our people on these things. Our people, it's a lot of our people still uneducated. It's a lot of conscious cats that are uneducated about this land thing. That's why I'm making this video. And Europeans, man, you got to watch what the other races are doing because they're doing what their generations have been taught to do. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we got to be accountable for ourselves here today, man. And it's a shame because the petty bourgeoisie is the problem. The petty bourgeoisie, these celebrities, these cats with these millions and billions, man, they're scared of the white man. Yes, you cats are scared of the white man. Why? Because you don't do nothing for new African people. And I ain't going to say no names here today. Because you know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And when we do get together, people are scared to invest. Black people amongst each other are scared to invest in each other and obtaining things like land. Because one, we're scared that the other person is going to make more money. We're scared that the other person is going to stab us in the back. We don't know the agendas of our people, man. We can't trust each other. With no trust, we can't build nothing. We can't have nothing because we don't have no trust amongst each other, man. And it's sad, man. I'm going to leave that right there for y'all to think about, man. And the petty bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie, boule cats, and all y'all type cats, y'all the enemy, man. Like, I don't even mess with y'all cats, man. Y'all cats the purified enemy because y'all cats sitting on all these millions, but y'all ain't doing nothing for our people, man. Y'all ain't trying to buy no land. Y'all ain't trying to do nothing. You're just trying to sit on your money and be selfish. When the struggle is for land. This is how you want to sit and complain every day, even though you got money, but you ain't trying to educate yourself or get educated on what we need to be doing as a people to get our people out of economic poverty and to get our people out of poverty. You see what I'm saying? It's a shame. The petty bourgeoisie, man. The petty black bourgeoisie. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna quote something real quick from Malcolm real quick. Malcolm said that the land is the basis of independence. Fact. A self-determined, independent people can only be independent unless they have land. And this is, what it's about. Malcolm stated, look at the American Revolution in 1776. That revolution was for what? For land. Why did they want land? Independence. How was it carried out? Bloodshed. Number one, it was based on land. The basis of independence. And the only way they could get it was bloodshed. The first revolution. What was it based on? The landless against the landlord. What was it for? Land. How did they get it? Bloodshed. Was no love laws. Was no compromise. Was no negotiation. I'm telling you, you don't know what a revolution is. Because when you find out what it is, you'll get back in the alley. You'll get out the way. Russian Revolution. What was it based on? Land. The landless. Hold on. Again, the landless against the landlord. How did he bring it about? Bloodshed. You haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed. And you are afraid to bleed. I said you are afraid to bleed. Moving on right down the line. Hold on. The Chinese Revolution. They wanted land. They threw the British out, along with the Uncle Tom Chinese. Yeah, they did. They set a good example. When I was in prison, I read an article. Don't be shocked when I say I was in prison. You're still in prison. That's what America means. Prison. When I was in prison, I read an article in Life magazine showing a little Chinese girl. 9-year-old. Her father was on his hands and knees. She was pulling the trigger because he was an Uncle Tom China man. When they had the revolution over there, they took a whole generation of Uncle Toms, just wiped them out. And within 10 years, that little girl became a full-grown woman. No more Toms in China. Today, it's one of the toughest, roughest, most feared countries on earth by the white man because there are no Uncle Toms over there. Fact. All of our studies, this is the great Baba Omowale, man. All of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. And when you see that, you've got problems. All you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who have problems similar to ours. And once you see how they got there straight, then you'll know how you can get yours. There's been a revolution, a black revolution, going on in Africa, in Kenya. The Mau Mau were revolutionaries. They were the ones who made the word Uhuru, Kenyan word for freedom. They were the ones who brought it to the fore. The Mau Mau. They were revolutionaries. They believed in the scorched earth. They knocked everything aside that got in their way. Their revolution also was based on land. A desire for land. In Algeria, the northern part of Africa, a revolution took place. The Algerians were revolutionists. They wanted land. France offered to let them be integrated into France. They told France to hell with France. They wanted some land, not some France. They engaged in a bloody battle. So I cite these various revolutions, brothers and sisters, to show you. You don't have to have a peaceful revolution. You don't have to turn the other cheek revolution. There's no such thing as nonviolent revolution. The only kind of revolution that's nonviolent is the Negro Revolution. The only revolution based on loving your enemy is the Negro Revolution. The only revolution in which the goal is desegregated lunch counter, a desegregated theater, a desegregated park, a desegregated public toilet. You can sit down next to the white folks on the toilet. That's no revolution. Revolution is based on land. Land is the base of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality. Baba, Omowale, Malcolm X, El Hajj, Shabazz, the ideological father of New Africa, man. The basis of independence is land. And go check out on YouTube, go check out what's his name? Chief Yaya from West in Africa, man. Go check his videos out too, man, because he always talking about land and like he's in the modern day, you know, he's in the modern day time of that. You feel me? About this land. Let me move right on along to what this video is about. The restrictions on keeping our people landless. Let's get into some of the things they did, man. The strategies and things that they did to keep our people landless. I'm going to get on and let me scroll on into my notes so I can, you know, give you some examples of this real quick. And also, man, when you studying this education, man, take down notes, man. Keep a notebook full of notes and keep those notes with you at all times. So you can break this stuff down to people who don't understand. Write it down. Anything you learn it. Write it down. Write it in some notes. Keep it in a nice place so you can have it when you got to explain this type of information to our people that don't really know about this, man. The struggles for land. United States stole land from blacks. Significant dates on black land loss, and land acquisition. And before I get into this, one thing that you should be studying as an African, a conscious African, is during the Civil War. Right before the Civil War ended, do your research on the Special Field Order 15. This field order is the field order that gave New Africans that came out of slavery, that was escaping slavery, land, specifically on the South Carolina and Georgia coast. And our ancestors, when the Union Army came through the South in Georgia, and they cleared all the Confederates out, ran the Confederates out of Georgia, General T. Sherman was the leader of this. And when he ran them out, our ancestors were following behind this Union, brigade, army, following behind them to get away from the Confederates, to get to a place where they can, live in peace and seek freedom. So they followed General T. Sherman all the way out to the Sea Islands on the coast of Georgia and in the border of South Carolina. When they got there, General T. Sherman, and at the time, the president at the time, I can't recall his name right now, General T. Sherman told this president that it's an island out here that's been vacated by the Confederates and the plantations on it. So General T. Sherman took that land and told the president that he was going to give this land to the blacks, and that the blacks can have their own land, and that they can set up their own colony. You see what I'm saying? So Tunis G. Campbell, a politician from up north, came down to the south to Georgia and became in control of that. New African Tunis G. Campbell. And what Tunis G. Campbell was doing, he took control of the land, and he told his people that we was going to live off this land and build off this land on the islands that nobody wanted. And they gave him the land. Tunis G. Campbell brought in all the stuff they needed, got all the stuff they needed from the government, plows, sharecropping resources and everything. And they started to build up the land, cultivate the land. Tunis G. Campbell vision was to build up an independent state, independent country for black people. So he started doing this. And when he started doing this, it started being, it started being beneficial. And by it started being beneficial, the Europeans seen this, and the European government reneged on this and stopped tooling and resourcing Tunis G. Campbell and the blacks to move to the Sea Islands, because they seen that Tunis G. Campbell was trying to build up an independent country, an independent state, that no whites was allowed. And when he did that, the United States was like, no. Took it, and the land started to deteriorate, and they took that land, kicked Tunis G. Campbell and them off the land. Stole it from them. To this day, New Africans in Atlanta, in Georgia, and even all our descendants across the United States are owed that land from Special Field Order 15. Special Field Order 15 is owed land to New Africans. Do your homework on that. Special Field Order 15. Research that. Now let me get into this. On some other specific dates on when they stole land from our ancestors. 1861, the Civil War begins. 1862, and you can go see these dates on my blog, because I always got the, the resource. You know what I mean? Because I don't like to talk about them without the resources. 1862, Congress creates the U.S. Department of Agriculture. 1862, Congress passes the Morrill Act, or land grant, to create land grant colleges for agriculture and mechanical arts for white from stolen blacks' land. 1865, where was promised to blacks. 1865, January, Congress adopts the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to abolish slavery, which created wage and economic slavery. It didn't do nothing but transform into another, form. That's all it did. 1865, January, after meeting with freed slaves in Savannah, Georgia, here we go, and what became known as the Savannah Colloquy, General William T. Sherman responded to their pleas for land, New Africans. In January, he issued his famous Field Order 15, setting aside a huge swath of abandoned land along the Georgia and South Carolina coast for black families on 40 acres plots. He also said that army mules no longer in use would be offered to black farmers. This is likely where the 40 acres in the mule legend began. Sherman never stated whether this was to be a permanent or temporary land acquisition. 1865, Congress established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, Abandoned Lands, Freedmen Bureau, providing the allocation of occupied land to freedmen. Freedmen are New Africans, black people, y'all. Just in case y'all don't know what that term means. That means blacks that were just freed out of slavery, or they freed themselves out of slavery. We don't want to give them too much credit, because you know a lot of our people got free on their own. Not to exceed 40 acres. Rather than 40 acres as requested, Congress allowed the Freedmen's Bureau to sell only 5 to 10 acres tracts of land to free slaves. 1865, the Civil War ends. 1865 and April 14th. Hold on, I'm going to skip a lot of this because a lot of this stuff ain't got nothing to do with land. Okay, 1865 May, because you can read these dates yourself. 1865 May, President Johnson announces his Reconstruction Plan. This is the era. This is the part where we got dicked out a lot of land, y'all. Go do your research on the Reconstruction period. I always tell people, if you want to know the state and the reason why we in today, go study the Reconstruction Plan of the South. The plan calls for the southern states to abolish slavery, but does not offer a role for blacks in Reconstruction. The southern states are determined to the role of blacks themselves. 1865, June. Some 40,000 free slaves were settled on what was referred to as Sherman's Land, on 400,000 acres of land in Georgia and South Carolina. Much of this land was for rice cultivation. The freedmen created their own government, denied white access to the area, and cultivated their land. Another New African state. Tunis G. Campbell. 1865, President Johnson reverses the Sherman's Field Order 15 by ordering that virtually all plantation lands given to free slaves returned to their original slave owners, stolen land from blacks. 1865, a reluctant General Howard, chairman of the Freedmen Bureau, assigned to the task to tell free slaves in Georgia and South Carolina that they must return the land they had settled on to original owners. Some 2,000 blacks came to a local church on Edisto Island to hear his comments. Howard said the free slaves need to lay aside their bitter feelings and become reconciled to their old masters. They responded, "No, never. Can't do it." Why? General Howard, do you take away our lands? Petitions by blacks were drafted to protest betrayal. The first stated, "General, we want homesteads. We were promised homesteads by the government. If it does not carry out the promises its agents made to us, we are left in more unpleasant condition than our former ancestors." You will see this is not the condition of really free men. Eric Foner and Joshua Brown, Forever Free, the story of emancipation and Reconstruction. Man, dirty, man. Dirty. Let me move right along. Stealing land from our ancestors. Here we go. And also, do your research on the black code, on the black codes of the South. The black codes of the South was before Jim Crow. These birthed Jim Crow laws. The black codes of the South were codes and laws put in place to restrict our ancestors from obtaining land and obtaining equality amongst wages and labor. By New Africans and blacks being restricted on equality with labor and wages and the ability to obtain land, this put them back into position of enslavement because they had to stay on the plantation. Many of our ancestors never left the plantations, y'all. This is another thing we have to realize. They never left the plantations. After 1865, this is why Juneteenth, 1860. I'm not telling y'all not to celebrate it. I probably don't really celebrate it. I don't really acknowledge it because our ancestors wasn't fully freed. Because when we came out of this transitional period in Reconstruction and the so-called Juneteenth, which is the de facto date of all our ancestors being freed, because all our ancestors wasn't freed after 1865, y'all. They wasn't free because they had to stay on the plantations. They didn't have nothing, which caused all the periods of, man, over millions of our ancestors died when they were freed, when they were so-called freed at the end of this date. And they died from sickness, hunger, because they couldn't transition. They had nothing to transition into. You see what I'm saying? And when they put these black codes in, that detrimented our growth as a people economically and socially. You see what I'm saying? It kept us from obtaining what a freed person should obtain, which is independence, land, stability for your families. You see what I'm saying? This was restriction on our people, y'all. These laws. And then those laws evolved into the Jim Crow laws. You see what I'm saying? That kept our people even more landless and even more stuck in a standstill and not capable of taking care of our own people and passing down things to our people for our next generations. This is why we're struggling today. This is where welfare come from. This is where the projects come from. This is where all this stuff come from, y'all. To keep you restricted. Keep you from obtaining the true things that a free person should have, which is land and independence and wealth. We're not on this earth to work to death. We wasn't put on this earth to work ourselves to have nothing. This is not what we came into existence for. Not to work your whole life and have nothing. You see what I'm saying? That's not a free person. So go do your research on the black codes of the South. That too. Moving online. Look at this. 1896. The U.S. Supreme Court passes Plessy versus Ferguson, legalizing separate but equal facilities for whites and blacks, which supports the Jim Crow laws passed in the South denying blacks their rights. 1910. Listen to this statistics right here, man. In 1910, peak of land ownership for blacks. Collectively, blacks own 15 million acres of land, in which of 280,000 black farmers are full or part owners. A steady decline of land ownership begins after 1910. Before 1910, our people had 15 million acres of land. Y'all, can you see why we are in the situation that we are today? 15 million acres of land taken away from your people? That's terrorism. That's economical, economical terrorism. That's destruction, y'all, of human existence. To have 15 million acres of land that you can build up and survive off, taken away from your ancestors, man. We are owed this. We're owed more than that now because it's 2015. You know what I mean? Because they still practicing racial laws on black farmers. You must get into research of the black farmers revolution. Because, man, we on a decline farmer-wise, man. Like, they done took so much land from black farmers, man, here today in 2015. It's a shame. Like, we don't have no land. 15 million acres of land taken from our people before, after 1910. Land ownership is on a decline, and it's still going down, y'all. Stripped out people of their land like that. And then, from this period of 1910, they just been putting in bills, laws, and so forth to keep us, landless, basically. And here's another one, a person y'all need to look up is New African James Foreman. In 1969, James Foreman releases the Black Manifesto. Go do your research on the Black Manifesto. In Detroit, calling for $200 million for a Southern land bank. He was trying to get a Southern land bank to reclaim this land that was taken from our ancestors. That's owed to our descendants and owed to us today, which is land, y'all. And from this period on and down, man, it's just been a lot of bills put in place, and fights and struggle for our people to try to obtain land. And, it's just an ongoing fight, man. An ongoing fight where they took land from our people. And let me move right on along. I'm gonna go ahead and get into these. I'm gonna get into these black towns that I want y'all also to get into, to show you how we always struggle for land. And when we had that land, man, a beautiful manifestation of great people, man, built great towns out of land, man. And y'all should do y'all research on these places. Hold on. Let me scroll on down. Yeah, let me do this real quick. The struggle is for land. Part 2. What is land ownership? Why New Africans keep losing land. Land ownership is a vital asset to all communities. Within the last century, African American land ownership has rapidly declined. Comparing the U.S. Agricultural Census data on African American farmland ownership from 1910 to 1997, it shows a drastic decline from its peak of 15 million acres in 1910 to today, 2.4 million acres, well, 2 million, I'm going to say 1997, 2.4 million acres in 1997. A recent study estimated that in the early 20th century, rural land ownership among African American farmers and non-farmers were between 16 and 19 million acres. The 1999 Agricultural Economics and Land Ownership Survey, which assessed private rural land ownership across race and use, i.e. farming and forestry, found that there are currently 68,000 African Americans rural landowners, and they own a total of approximately 7.7 million acres of land, less than 1% of all privately owned rural land in the United States. 60% which is owned by non-farmers. However, this acreage is valued at $14 billion. With rural land ownership clearly being a significant economic resource base in African American community controls, why do African Americans continue to lose their land? And, you know, y'all can go to my blog and you can read this blog. It's called The Struggle is for Land, Part 2. What is land ownership? Why New Africans keep losing land. Go read that, and it's got the breaking in the details of why we're continuously losing land here today in North America. And it just it runs down on why. You know, it gives you, you know, different things that you might not be educated on why you lose your land here today. Because it's too long for me to read right now, so I can't really get into that right now. Because, you know, I'm about to shut this video down in a few seconds. Let me find these black towns for you real quick that you should be, studying across North America, man, when we obtain land. Where's that, man? There we go. Here we go. New African towns and settlements of indigenous natives and Oklahoma territories. This isn't Oklahoma alone, y'all. African towns and settlements. African ghost towns. The Arkansas Colored Town. Booker T Town. Canadian Colored Town. Chase Town. Ferguson Town. Lincoln City Town. Marshall Town. North Fork Town. Old Vinta Town. Wybark Town. African towns today that still exist from back then. Arcadia Town. Bowley Town. Langston Town. The Red Bird Town. Rentisville Town. Taft Town. Tallahassee Town. Vernon. Wewoka Town. Africans Colored Town. From 1895 onward, this small black settlement existed in the southern part of the Chickasaw Nation. A post office operated in this town from 1895 to 1912. Not much more has even been written about this town, nor the freedmen who resided within its limits. No trace exists of the settlement to date. Let me move right on down. Old Veneta Town. This was primarily a black settlement in Cherokee Nation and was home to mostly Cherokee black freedmen. Many freedmen eventually left and settled in Coffeyville, Kansas for job opportunities. This black settlement has been absorbed into the current city of Veneta, Oklahoma. Y'all already know about the Black Town Bowling. Basically, man, go to this blog. Where's that? Go to my blog, and when you go on my blog, go look up the New African towns and settlements of indigenous natives and Oklahoma Territories, August 3rd Collective South. History lessons. Go look that up. And let me see if I got something else I want to discuss with you about the struggles for land. Hold on. I think that's about it. I'm about to close this video down. Because I basically touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. Let me see if it's something that I'm missing out. That should be it, man. And like I said, man, go do your research on the Reconstruction period. Go do your research on the Black codes of the South. Go do your research on the script. The script was another strategic tactic to keep us landless. The script, what was the script? Script is this, paper that they gave our ancestors instead of giving us money. And by giving you script can only be spent in white stores with white plantation owners. And by spending this script with only white plantation owners and white stores, the white plantation owners would lift the prices up so you wouldn't be able to afford everything that's in the store with the script that you was paid, which was minimum wages. You see what I'm saying? So you couldn't get what you really needed with script because they upped the prices. And by they doing that, Louisiana imposed a law where that if, how can I put it? If you go into debt, which the script made our new African ancestors go into debt because they couldn't afford this stuff, you couldn't leave off the plantation because you was in debt. And by you being in debt, you had to work off that debt. You couldn't leave the plantation until that debt is paid off that you owed because you wasn't getting paid money. You was getting paid script. Another psychological and strategic tactic that they use on our ancestors to keep our ancestors on the plantation and keeping us landless. Go do your research on the script. This will happen specifically on the plantations in Louisiana, man. On the sugarcane fields in Louisiana. Script. Go do your research on script. I'm trying to find this one little piece of information before I can shut this video down. Because I done overlapped in time. I tried to get as much information on here on why the struggle is for land, which I got it. That's about it, because I'm not going to be able to pull it up. Yeah, man. The struggle is for land. Land is the basis of independence, of an independent people, man. A people that don't have no land is not a free people. So I'm going to sign off right here. Organize the South, from Virginia to Florida, from Virginia to Texas. Haki Kweli Shakur, the seat of Gabriel Prosser. August 3rd Collective South, August 3rd Collective of the New African Independence Movement. One love to all my ancestors. One love to all my comrades. One love to all black people, man. Power to those who don't fear freedom. And let's get free. Rebuild.